We're rolling, we're
Yep.
going, we're live.
Okay. So, welcome to the podcast, Shyanne.
Thank you for having me here.
We're glad to have you.
Thank
As
you.
I was saying before, a lot of guys are excited to have you because we know you have a unique perspective on running and like what we can do to keep running if we get injured or how to avoid that.
Yeah.
So, as a trainer, what is the most commonly asked questions and like what are your answers to those?
So, obviously I feel like you know me and a lot of people know me, so my answers sometimes might come off sarcastically sometimes, but the questions that I get range. I get the most common question, I kid you not, every day is, do you have a Band-Aid or do you have tape? And I say that because it's the funniest thing ever, because I'm an athletic trainer. If I don't have a Band-Aid or if I don't have tape, I think I automatically fail at my job. But honestly, I feel like a lot of the questions that I get from kids are always like, it's honestly a lot to do with how can I stretch things, or how can I get this part of my body stronger, or how can I. It's always in detail of with their body. Like, they don't understand their body, they don't understand their anatomy, if that makes sense. They don't understand the muscles and all that stuff. And not everybody here takes anatomy, physiology, I feel like, or if they do take it, it's not till their junior, senior year. So a lot of those questions come from our younger kids, like our freshmen and sophomores. So a lot of those questions that I get are always stemming from not understanding the muscles, not understanding how their body works, and it's always pertaining to how can I stretch my hamstrings, or how can I stretch this muscle, or how can I strengthen my bicep, or how can I do this. And so a lot of it is really basic, simple questions that I get asked every day, honestly. It's nothing super inquisitive or something that makes me always go grab the books and dig and has me stumped. But 9 times out of 10, the questions are as basic as, how do I stretch my quads? And I go and break it down, and it's just about understanding and knowing your body, and where is the quad at? What are the quad muscles, and how do they react in your body? How do they work? And then how do you stretch that? So honestly, I mean, besides the funny answers of, do you have tape? Do you have Band-Aids? Do you have ice? I get questions of, how do I stretch things? How does this get stronger? And it's the very basics of, how does my body work? Because kids don't understand that yet with being in high school still. You don't get that knowledge, I feel like, until either you've been an athlete long enough, or you've been through the college or the coursework that, I mean, someone like me, someone like Pullman, someone that's been around it, sports and those types of things long enough have been. So, yeah.
So I know we're talking about like stretching, and
Yes.
I feel like everyone's personal.
Yes.
But as runners, what would you say the most like common questions are? Like, what would you say like the weakest kind of muscle set is, and how to like stretch that out or strengthen it?
Ooh, for runners, that's a good question. I would have to say a lot of it varies from, obviously all of it's lower body, and it would have to be from either anywhere within involving the hips. So either you have, we talk about stretching your piriformis muscle, which is in the backside of your gluteus maximus, and then you stretch that with a figure 4, if you know what that is. Yeah, I don't know how, if I'd show that as like a diagram. I know in a podcast you can't show that, but the classic figure 4 stretch, or you stretch, asking how to stretch out your hip flexors. Those ones are always normally weak because they're the tiny muscles. The piriformis and the hip flexors are always tiny muscles that are overlooked a lot. They're not the big muscle groups that we get with everyday motions. And so those often overlook getting stretched, those often overlook getting strengthened. And then stretching those hip flexor muscles is, like a kneeling lunge stretch, or even if you're super, super, super tight, a standing quad stretch would stretch your hip flexor, because it's just it attaches and goes through that quad muscle. But a lot of those tiny muscles are the ones that they do so much for the body and so much for the hip joints and things like that, but they get overlooked because they're tiny. People half the time don't even know that we have a muscle called the piriformis, or they say the hip flexor, and people think that that's the actual name. It's actually an iliopsoas, which is the muscle. And again, if you don't know anatomy and you haven't taken those, you might look at me like I just said a foreign language. But it's the tiny muscles. The tiny muscles get overlooked and weak or super tight easy, and then they don't know how to stretch them specifically because there are specific stretches. And so for runners, I would say definitely probably one of those two. It's either the back side or the front side of the hip joints, depending on running form, training form, and which way you're stronger or weaker in your body, I guess.
Okay.
Yep.
And there are a lot of muscles to learn.
Yes.
So for someone who isn't going to take a physiology or anatomy class, how would you say is the best method of like just learning the basics just so that they stay healthy?
So they say Google. Don't not Google. I know they say don't believe everything you have on Google or you see on Google, but we're attached to our phones. I mean, everybody has a phone at these days. I feel like if you don't, you have an iPad or access to one, or you have a computer from the school. Hop on Google and search hip muscles, search thigh muscles, search your calf muscles. Look at the muscles, study, and kind of like understand that the calf muscle is technically two muscles. It's not just one. Look at the hip joint and see that those muscles there are tiny, tiny muscles, and there are so many muscles that are indirect or in charge of working the different directions that your body move. And, if you have pain in specific areas constantly, look at what muscle that would probably be and why would that be. And that will kind of help you kind of understand, okay, well, maybe it's because of my running form. Maybe it's because my hips are misplaced. Maybe it's because, there's thousands of reasons why, but just understanding your own anatomy will just grant you so much more access to understanding why your body is feeling the way it is. And it will allow you to understand, okay, so if I do a figure 4 stretch, I am stretching this muscle, and now that makes sense. And it allows you to understand the whys and feel what you're feeling and know what you're feeling, and gives you a kind of a better sense of what you're doing while you're training and being an athlete.
And then for running and stretching, that's obviously for recovery. So what does your kind of, I guess, like perfect post-run recovery look like?
Okay, so I'm not an avid runner, so anymore that is. But I would tell you guys, there's no such thing as perfect, obviously, but I would strive for, get rid of, when you're doing a recovery, it's not you're trying to get 5 miles in this time. You're not going to strive for trying to get the fastest time. It is supposed to be an easy day, right? You're supposed to be relaxing the body, getting that built up lactic acid out of your muscles, and giving your body a chance to recuperate and recover from a really tough run the day before. So I always look at recovery runs more so in a time stance of, okay, run 20 to 40 minutes depending on you and your condition state, and keep that intensity rate of I always look at your heart rate. So you want to get no higher than like a 60-70% of your max heart rate. And you can figure out your max heart rate. By the way, it's 220 minus your age. So, for just easy sake, if you're 20 years old, your max heart rate is 200. Most of us are anywhere between 15, 14, 16, 17. So right around that 200-ish is your max heart rate. And then about 60 to 70% of that is what I would say your recovery run should intensity-wise be. And I mean, I feel like a lot of our runners have our heart rate monitors on our watches now. So I would just gauge it off that and do that for about 20 minutes, go out for a nice easy run, come on in, and then after that you've got to do a really good cool down and stretch and take care of your body after that as well and recuperate, because that's going to help get that lactic acid out of your body and give the muscles a good just kind of jolt of energy that they need, just to speed up your recovery rate also. So
okay. And then can you talk about why the ice bath is such a good recovery tool?
Yeah, so the ice bath is just, it helps calm everything down. It helps flushes everything down. It helps keep inflammation processes down. Ice it constricts and keeps your muscles, obviously it freezes everything in a sense, but it constricts those muscles and it helps reduce the inflammation within any muscles. So if you had a really rough run and there's some leftover muscle or inflammation in the joints and things like that, that ice bath in the whirlpool is going to circulate and get the joints and get every single crevice of your legs and in between your toes and everything. It's not going to just be an ice pack for 10 minutes. It's going to really encircle and compress, I can't speak, words are hard and so is English, and compress the, circle the joints. So this is why I don't do podcasts, because English is my worst nightmare. And it's just gonna help get all of that inflammation out and just make your body overall just feel better. So that's why we really, really push for that recovery day run and then cold whirlpool, and just to stay on top of it, because it's gonna help keep inflammation processes down and it's gonna help keep those muscles feeling fresh for the next day.
Okay. Yeah. And how often would you recommend getting in the ice bath?
So it's not like a dire need. I'm not gonna, stare at you and hunt you down and be like, oh my gosh, you have to ice bath. But it's definitely, if you're feeling pain and soreness, 100% you should be ice bathing every day after practice. If you're feeling really good and you're having no pain, no soreness, I would say it's a toss-up. I mean, stretching is gonna do just as much as that ice bath is gonna do for you. So if you honestly do a really good stretching post-workout routine, then you could probably get away with doing an ice bath maybe 2 times a week and still be okay. But if you are actively having still pain and soreness pre or post run, you need to be doing that probably daily, if not every other day. Mm. Yeah.
And then what exactly does stretching do to your muscles?
So stretching, if you talk about it in the sense of post-run, it's going to help just kind of relax and cool down those muscles, and it's going to help just kind of calm everything down, and just, it's going to stretch everything back out. Honestly, I've never had this question. That was a really good question. I've never thought of it this way. It's going to relax everything out, and it's going to make sure that you're not going to tighten up really, really to the point of where the elasticity of that muscle is going to just spasm right back up. It's going to make sure that you're going to just kind of stay nice and relaxed and stretched out afterwards still. So if you go for a really hard workout and you go run and then you just go walk away like nothing's ever happened, those muscles are never going to get a chance to properly cool down, I guess you could say, and properly get that lactic acid out, properly get back down to the state that they need to be in, to not cramp, to not feel sore, to not have all of those bad things that you always feel after a really tough workout. By doing a 10-minute stretching routine, that's going to help reduce injury, that's going to help reduce that lactic acid, that's going to help reduce the cramping, that's going to help reduce all of those things that all those athletes hate seeing and hate experiencing. The biggest thing, honestly, is the stretching helps us eliminate injuries. I say that to the kids, I feel like, every day. And if you stay consistent with your stretching, post and pre workouts, it's gonna limit a lot of your injuries and a lot of your pain and a lot of your soreness, because it's increasing your flexibility and it's making your joints more mobile. And I think the kids look at me like I'm speaking, again, a foreign language, and they think I'm full of crap, excuse my language, but it's science. It's basic science. If your joints are more mobile, you're not going to be as rigid. You're going to be able to move more fluid, and you're not going to be at a high risk for injury because you're going to have more flexibility. A lot of our injuries are due to lack of flexibility, and it's really basic as that. So the more you stretch and the more you increase your flexibility, the less injuries you're going to have in the long run. So that's why the basics of 15 minutes of stretching is going to be so beneficial if you get in that consistent rhythm.
Okay. And you mentioned lactic acid. So
yes.
Another question, what exactly is lactic acid?
You are breaking out the science today. Lactic acid is, oh gosh, this is bringing me back to grad school days. Lactic acid is just pretty much, it is a component that ends up coming from our bodies. So you go through, I have to really talk this out. So you go through a really tough workout, and then our body produces lactic acid as a byproduct, a waste product from all of the chemical processes in our body from that workout, right, in our muscles. Well, what ends up happening is that lactic acid then just situates in the muscles, and it doesn't get to be expelled properly because it's just, what's like a good analogy for this? It's pretty much, it just gets stuck in the muscles. It's the soreness that you're feeling, and it's the tightness that you might be feeling because that byproduct just ends up getting situated within, the larger muscle groups like your quads, your lats, your hamstrings, your calves, because there's nowhere for it to technically go, because a lot of our times our athletes don't really do a good cool down, do a good stretching routine, do a good post-game routine, whatever it is, and then it just situates there and stays there, and then it's literally just, it's a byproduct of the chemical breakdowns that our muscles go through during our workout the day before, in basic terms, and then it just has nowhere to go, and it just kind of sticks in our muscles, and then our body doesn't use it in any other way, so our body has to expel it and get rid of it. And by doing all those light, easy workouts, the muscles then will push its way in and out, and then it'll go through the bloodstream and kick itself out that way.
Okay.
That was really hitting the science, and that was a lot of, I don't even know if I said that properly.
No, it all made sense.
I was going to say, Google check, fact me on that, because people are probably going to call me out for misstating something.
And a little bit of a shift from the recovery side of things.
Yeah.
So diet is equally, if not more important than recovery.
Yes.
So what would you say? Obviously, diet is going to be specific to the runner,
right,
just as well as recovery is. But what
right,
do you say, like generally, what is a good diet for a runner?
Right. So diet is huge. I strive on getting a good, rounded, balanced diet for advancing through your athletic career. I feel like that's not stressed enough, especially in our younger sports, just because I feel like it's not like, I honestly don't know if it's like a full class right now for you guys. Like, do you have a nutrition class in high school that you guys can take?
Like foods, but it's an elective. So it's
not like a dietitian nutrition class, right? So nutrition is so important for athletes, especially young athletes, to understand. I feel like we are not, as a society, teaching this properly, and I feel like if you are getting taught properly nutrition, that is a huge kudos to either those around you who are teaching that to you, parents, siblings, friends, teachers, coaches, whoever it is. But I would say a really good diet for runners specifically would be the three bigs would be making sure that you're getting carbs, proteins, and fats. And when I say that, people might think carbs, oh my gosh, I feel like a lot of people look at that and they're like, carbs are terrible for me, carbs are horrible. Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at junk food and all the carbs that, might be in a brownie or a cookie or, a Big Mac, okay, yeah, those things aren't probably the healthiest for you. But when you look at carbs and you think whole grain pasta, or if you think brown rice, or you think whole grain bagel or a banana, things like that are actually complex carbs and nutrient dense foods for you, are huge fuel for you. I feel like about 60% of our diet each day, or like our calorie intake each day, should be carbs for you guys, because that's your fuel source. That's how you guys are going to fuel your way through those runs. And I feel like at your guys' age, people shy away from carbs. I feel like it may be a little bit more on the girls' side than the guys, but I feel like carbs are looked at as like the devil these days, and it's definitely not. Carbs are so beneficial to everybody's diet, and it helps fuel you guys through those runs. And then, so I would really, really, really vouch on about 60% of your diet being carbs. the whole grains, the brown rice, the fruits, the vegetables, the complex carbs, things like that, a big bulk of your food group. And then after that, the fats. And when I say that, I'm not saying, like, people are probably like, why would you need fat in your diet? Well, your body then, after carbs are depleted, go to fats next. So they're going to deplete the fats during your runs for fuel. And when I say fats, I'm thinking, like your nuts, oils, avocados, things like that. Your good, healthy fats in that sense. So, and I know that's not everybody's, maybe taste, and not everybody's going to like that. But I feel like if you honestly went on, like, again, Google, and looked up, healthy fats or anything like that, you could find at least one item on there that you're like, oh, okay, that's a good option. Add that to your food groups. And then after that fueling you, protein comes next. And protein is so vital in recovery for your guys' like after workouts, after runs. And that's when, your basic chicken, meats, things like that, milk, dairy, all that protein comes in, because that's going to help rebuild muscle and help your recovery process and things like that. So in a sense, that really good diet is really nailing the fuel of carbs and fats, and healthy carbs, complex carbs, and your healthy fats. And then recovery breakdown, making sure you're getting a good source of protein in there. And then, of course, water intake. They always say 50% of your body weight in ounces is a good average of what you should be intaking. And I always say for my athletes, especially if you're an avid sweater, intake that a little bit more and go up to about probably 60 to 70% of your body weight.
Okay.
Yep.
And I know a problem for a lot of runners is that they're not eating enough.
Yeah.
So how would you recommend kind of getting enough calories per day? Because I don't know. I know the daily average is, for general, is around 2,000. But
yeah.
Well, first, I guess, how much is it on average for guys, girls as runners? And, like, how do you get that much food in you?
Yeah. So I want to say for athletes, I want to say the calorie intake is up a little bit. I know for girls, it's about, I want to say, honestly, it's closer to 2,600. And then guys, I want to say it's about 2,800 depending. And then if you're trying to gain muscle and gain all of that stuff, it gets bumped up closer to like 3,000. But don't quote me on that one. But the daily average is right around 2,000. And then how to intake that, because I know it's hard for some people, especially, to sit down and have like an actual meal, especially with busy lifestyles. I mean, I get that. I mean, half the time I feel like I'm literally eating out of a lunchbox all day. So I recommend snacks. I really do. I would try to just like have a time clock, if you guys start your day at 8, 7, 6, whatever time you guys start your day in the morning, set an internal time clock of like being like, okay, if eating in the morning right away is not your thing, that's fine. Go ahead then at 8 a.m., let's have a granola bar, or let's have a banana, let's have a smoothie, let's have something, and make sure we really pack ahead for the day, because you guys are busy athletes and you're here all day, every day. So pack ahead for the day, and 8 o'clock have a smoothie or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden 10, 11 might happen. Okay, have like a handful of almonds and just kind of snack that way. And then lunch is here, and it might not be a full huge meal, but again, have a small salad, whatever it might be, with some chicken or protein, things like that. And then right before practice, maybe have like a little bit, again, handful, another almonds or something, just to kind of really fuel you right before practice. Post-practice, hit the protein again, maybe have like chocolate milk with chicken and some veggies or something along those lines, and then have another snack right before you go to bed. These are all just very broad ideas, but again, just smaller meals more frequently throughout the day is what I'm getting at. Might be more helpful on hitting your calorie intake. Just because I do know some days it's just like you don't feel like eating a full meal, and it's hard to do that. So just snacking throughout the day, you'd be surprised how fast you could hit that calorie intake.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, or I guess all athletes, are afraid of injury.
Yes.
So what would you say is the number one thing to avoid injury?
So the one thing I will say is it's totally okay to be afraid of injury. It's part of the sport. It's gonna happen. And the unfortunate stance, it's what you kind of sign up of being an athlete. It's you accept that fact that there's that chance of getting injured. The best advice that I can say is just taking care of your body and listening to your body, and don't push through things that you feel like your body is telling you not to push through. Recovery and rest days are absolutely vital. You guys might not feel like you need them now, but I promise you later in life, your body is going to tell you you should have taken them. Implementing a recovery and rest day every week is absolutely vital. And then on top of that, like I said, stretching routine, a cool down and a warm up routine, again, so incredibly important to get consistent with that. I always say, you're not going to go in the weight room once a week and expect results. And same thing with the stretching and the warm up and cool down. You're not going to do that once a week and expect results. You got to be consistent. And then the last thing is to do some type of resistance training. I don't care what it is. I don't care, if it's weightlifting, if you do weights, if you do with bands, if you do it on Mondays and Fridays at 6 a.m., if you do it on every day of the week for 20 minutes, whatever it is, find something that works for you and do it, because building the strength and building the muscles is just going to help you stay stronger, stay healthier, and keep you out of my room, besides hopefully the social visits. But that's the overall goal. So, in some, just literally rest days and recovery days, keep it up and keep consistent. And then the warm up and cool downs and staying consistent with the stretching, and then resistance training. And I can't stress that enough. You've got to resistance train. I feel like if you don't resistance train and you don't strengthen your body, you are just deteriorating away as your body is going through season, and you end up in my room. I feel like I could count off the amount of kids that end up out of season because they've been out of the weight room or resistance training, and they're weak and they aren't able to make it through, and then the injuries happen and one thing after another, and then they just in my room, unfortunately, for not the right reasons. Because I love kids in the room. Don't take it that room. I love when you guys come and visit me, but I love seeing you guys all out on the field or the course or court or wherever it is, and I love seeing you guys out there consistently, not in my room consistently for injuries.
And then final question.
Yes.
You may have covered it already, but just what is the number one piece of just general advice you'd give to anyone or any athlete?
General advice is, oh gosh, that's a lot of directions I could go. Just have fun with it all. I feel like you guys probably get this from everybody, but honest to God, just have fun with it every single day, whatever sport you're doing, whatever activity you're doing, whatever, wherever you're going with friends, with life, with everything. Just enjoy it and have fun, because before you know it, you're going to be out of college or out of high school and done with sports, and you're going to be a wannabe athlete at 20 something. I'm not going to say the rest of my age, but 20 something, and you're going to wish that you're able to, I was a softball player, you're going to wish that you're going to be able to put the cleats back on and get on a field and play with your teammates again. You're going to wish for those days, and it goes by way too fast. And so just have fun, take it all in, take care of your bodies in nutrition aspects and strength aspects and all across the board, and just have fun.
Okay.
Have fun with it.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you coming on.
Anytime. I hope my blubbering English nonverbal moments were side swipes from this, because that was some sad moments.
All of it was very good. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. No problem.
Make it a great day.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Amp Up Season 2. Credits go to Casey Kruger for animating the intro, Dakota Miser and Isaac Hazelhorst for doing a lot of the behind-the-scenes work, Coach H for starting Amp Up last year and letting us carry it on this year, and to all the amazing guests who have volunteered their time to give you, the listeners, their accumulated knowledge on mental performance. We're on YouTube and Spotify, so you can listen whenever and wherever you want. Thank you. And as Goggins says, stay hard.